Josh.
What's up? How you doing, buddy?
Good. Yourself? Happy New Year.
Good. I'm trying to get my back in here. Hold on. I'm trying to get my Instagram to go live, but I screwed up.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah. How you been, man? It's good to see you.
Good. No complaints, buddy. No complaints.
Awesome. Yeah,
and here are the real stars of the show, right? Let's be serious.
Why does this? I don't know why it keeps going back to that.
I'm not very good at computers, so I can't help you with that.
I tell you, man, these things. Sometimes I wonder why I do this on this thing. I thought I had it. Audience, public, next. I had this all set up. Copy key.
You may actually have to go to your Instagram account and start it live on your Instagram.
I did. Yeah, I'm here. I did, but it closed itself. So now I have to cancel this.
Yeah, just close out everything and start over.
I'm just going to remove this. Now we're going to go back here. We're going to go down here. I apologize, everybody, but I'm going to get this right now.
No worries. Take your time.
All right. We got it. Now we go back to Instagram. We have
gotta love computers. It's easier to build a horizontal soil system than it is to figure out how to start a live on Instagram.
We're in.
All right.
No. And then I'm out.
All right. So let's start over again. Hey, Josh, how you doing, brother?
Awesome, buddy. How you doing, Leighton? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing really well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
So I got your soil samples.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So I did the couple slides of each, so I really got a decent feel of what's going on. So we'll talk about side one, or number one side.
Yep, number one side. That's basically right when you walk into the grow, right that front pocket there. That's where that soil came from, right on that. Right
Is that your background, or are you actually in the grow room?
No, that's just my background. The grow room's in dark right now. We're in flower.
Oh, damn it! Oh well.
Yeah,
because I love to actually see it. But anyway,
but Rick, I mean, shit. Ken can pull it up. Pull up a picture.
Oh,
whenever.
You want Ken to pull up the?
He can pull up if he wants to, whenever. But we can talk about it if he.
Yeah. Maybe Ken, you could try to find. I think it would be the front left pocket as you walk in.
Yep, when you walk straight in at first, where those first two plants are, that's where it is. Right where the stream comes into the creek, right where the stream enters the creek. That's where most of that biology is concentrated. So that's where
YouTube or Instagram would it be easier to grab from?
Probably YouTube. That way you can fast forward and kind of stop it. And but yeah, that's where right on the edge of the creek where the two plants are. That's where I just dug a little bit out right there and put it in a bag, and then the other one comes out the center, like it's separate. That's separate soil from everything else.
Got you. Well, hey, you have some different results, believe it or not. Go figure.
Okay. All right. I figured I would.
Right? And a lot of you use your common sense to kind of test what you visually saw was different, which is something I typically tell people. If you're going to pull soil samples, like look for ecotones, which ecotone means a difference between plant species, animal species, succession, like, the difference between a forest and a meadow, they're right next to each other, but the soil configurations are completely different. So in this particular case, number one side had 6 friggin' nematodes in each friggin' slide, dude. That's off the charts. And at least 3 different types. I didn't have time to identify them. Like 2 or 3 from that side were whiptails or bacterial feeders. They go really fast and they're doing this.
Yep.
And then the other ones were bigger and fatter and I just couldn't get, like, they were moving, so I just couldn't get into the mouth enough to say, oh, that's or that's an omnivore, or that's a fungal feeder, or that's a predatory.
Right.
Definitely none of them were root feeders. So you passed that test. All right, you tell us where you took it.
Okay. So if right basically you see that orange meter right there, it's basically right over top of where I took the soil sample.
Nice. So right there.
Like, yeah, basically right there where, I mean, that you can see where that pulse meter is. I mean, that's hanging up, of course, but if you were to just drop a line right down into the soil, that's about where I took the sample. Yeah.
Nice. So protozoa, so that's amoebas and flagellates, and then beneficial nutrient cyclers, very abundant. I didn't find any naked amoebas, but again, those take some time to identify because they don't move fast and they're clear. So it's very easily you lose them in the background. But I did see a number of super healthy testate amoebas, which for anyone that wants to know what a testate is, it kind of looks like a football or a hand grenade pattern around the outside of it. Typically, you could see a little dysfunction on where its mouth is. If its mouth is perfectly closed, it's hard to see it. But if it's feeding and it's open, it's very easy to see it. And all of your amoebas were feeding, which is another great indicator. All of them had full bellies, so it wasn't like they were just came to life.
I feed well.
Yeah, they're doing they're loving the bacteria. Something else that as your system gets more and more productive, which it will continue to, as all good living soil systems do, you'll actually begin to see kissing amoebas. Now, I say kissing amoebas because that's what it looks like. It looks like two amoebas kissing with an open mouth. So a little tongue action going on. I'm teasing. You don't see the tongue, but you see the two. Yeah. And essentially what that is post division. So one of them had divided and essentially puked out the other amoeba, but they're keeping their mouths open so that they can transfer basically the fluid as well as food to make sure that the new amoeba is going to survive, and other fluids like the stuff that surrounds their oreganellos. I forget the exact term. Whatever, it'll come to me. So didn't see any of those, but every one that I saw was super healthy, big, feeding. I didn't see any empty ones. So an empty amoeba is a dead one, where essentially you don't see the mouth because it's closed and there's no food in its belly. So it's past its life cycle, and unfortunately it didn't breathe. Right?
And these are bacteria feeders, correct?
Yes, correct. They only feed on bacteria. So protozoa pretty much only feed on bacteria, whereas nematodes feed on some bacteria, some fungi, some on each other, some on roots, and then of course you have the omnivores or switchers that can go back and forth. So anyway, so that being said, lots of protozoa, super happy.
Cool.
Fungi, damn, dude. I don't know what you've been adding in, whether you've been adding a lot of organic matter or leaves or chips, but super healthy, very, very high levels of.
That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to say, did you see any fungal stuff? Because
God, yeah, I saw spores. And by the way, back to the organisms, I saw a lot of cysts. I don't know whether they were.
That's the algae. That's the algae from those pads I've been putting in the creek. I've been putting in those filter pads.
Yeah.
Those nitrate pads, and then when they fill up with that fish poo and all that creek water, I just pull the pad out and lay it on top of the soil, or kind of like push it underneath the mulch layer a little bit. And it only takes like 2 or 3 days for the pad to be cleaned. Actually, Ken could pull up a YouTube video. Like today's video, I show, I put that pad in 2 days ago, and today it was like white, like where the worms had just turned everything into worm castings. I take the pad and I just knock it. All the worm castings come off into the soil, and then I just put the pad back in the creek. Nice. So literally it cleans the filter pad The biology does all the worms and everything. And then they take that back down to the soil, and then I just put the pad back into the creek and continue cleaning the creek with the pad. And I just, when it fills up, I take it up. And there's, biochar inside of those pads. It's just a fish tank,
It's a carbon filter.
Carbon filter. Thank you. I was trying to think of the damn word, carbon filter. Yeah.
And the word that I couldn't think of was cytoplasm, which is
cytoplasm. Yeah.
Which is like blood inside these microorganisms. Cytoplasm.
Right. That's like that gel like type stuff inside.
Yeah, it's more liquidy than gel. But think of it as their blood. It keeps the oreganellos separate, so they're not rubbing up against each other, because if you have two oreganellos that rub up against each other, that can cause all kinds of negative problems within the organism. So anyway, back to what I saw. So I did see some algae, but that's not directly related to the pad. What I was trying to tell you about the pad was that, you're right. The worms strip the bacteria, and so they clean them. They naturally clean them. Mm-hmm. And then back to the cysts. Yeah. So when I said the word cyst, what I mean is a state of life or a suspension. So bacteria can do it, protozoa can do it, nematodes can do it. So if they're not in the perfect environment, they curl up into this little ball, and they can literally be thrown into space and they won't die.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's stuff like that. Okay, yeah, like a cocoon type thing.
Totally. That's exactly right. A cocoon that can survive in any condition. And generally speaking, they do that when they need a rest. They've been feeding hard for a long period of time, and they're like, "Oh God, I'm so tired. I need to take a fucking nap." Or when they're in a condition that's not ideal, or they're uncomfortable with. It could be a pH shift change. It could be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And cysts are a good thing, and seeing live cysts is a great thing. And we're never to be concerned about it. Like, oh my God, my pH is off, and my protozoa went into cysts. It doesn't matter. The pH is going to regulate itself within the roots, because if, say, the plant wants to mine a nutrient that's only available in an anaerobic environment, well, it's going to shift that soil around the rhizosphere to go anaerobic, so that the anaerobic bacteria can harvest that nutrient, because it's not available if the bacteria can't survive in that environment. So I think you're now starting to really understand how that all works. And it was something that I brought to Elaine's attention when I was, a couple months in at Rodale. I said, Elaine, you were always just anti-anaerobic. And I'm like, well, I took a plant and I ripped it out, so I had the rhizosheath sheath, the clump of soil around the root ball, and I cut it in half with a steak knife, and I pulled different samples throughout the rhizosheath sheath, and I saw lots of pockets of anaerobes, lots of pockets of aerobes, lots of facultative anaerobes. So that was a healthy soil system, but there is a piece of that soil system that must require anaerobic conditions in order for it to function, or otherwise that plant would have been healthy. And she, God, I love her to death. She just knew exactly how to explain it to me. That we can't preach about anaerobic conditions, because people will be stupid. And instead of putting more fertilizer on because a little worked good, they'll use more anaerobes and thinking it's good. And that will unbalance the system. And therefore they're going to cause problems for themselves. So she's like, you can't let humans think, because as soon as they start thinking, they think they know more, and they're going to try shit that doesn't work, and then they're going to blame you for talking about it. And I was like, damn, that's fucking horrifying. So she goes, yeah, anaerobic conditions are critical in plant life. We just don't want to encourage them. We want to let them naturally happen, let the plant control it.
Right.
What's Ken bringing up? All right.
Looks like we got a video. Today's video. I'm walking around. You might have found where I pulled that pad out. That's where I pulled the sample out. Here's that pad. So that's the pad right there. That's the ChemiPure bag. That's just got biochar and clay and stuff in it. But that pad there is what we had in the creek. There's another one we have there. But that pad there has been in there a couple of days, and you can see how clean and white it is now.
Yeah, right.
So,
oh, look at all those roly-polies.
Oh, the roly, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. The roly-poly is like the isopod. Brian was on to something there because those guys are the shit. I mean, they are nonstop workers. They're nonstop breaker down. It's like that first secession stage, like they're the first guys on the scene. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they're the buzzard cleaning up the roadkill. So, and then after the buzzard, then all the other guys come in and clean up the other shit. But yeah, the roly-poly is like the first guy on the scene, man. He's going to be, and then it's all the other guys coming in, like the springtails and the road beetles and the earwigs and all the other mites and God knows what that's going on down there. But it's really cool to watch, and I'm really shocked at how fast everything happened. And I think everything happened so fast is because of that constant creek water.
Oh, great.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's just the moisture. I figured out, I was telling Ken backstage, I was like, I really have dialed in and figured out how to maintain that consistent amount of water that's can be spread completely over the soil pockets. It just happens. I'm noticing that it's happening. It's breaking down so fast that I'm having to replace it faster than I thought I would.
Yeah, the roly-polies are shredders. So they shred the organic matter and make it smaller and more available for the fungi and bacteria to consume. So yeah, once you get the ecosystem established, it's amazing how fast it can transition. Yeah, transition, chips and other woody lignin products into, food for all the other bugs, all the other organisms.
I'll tell you, the first stump that we cut, so the first grow we did, then we did the full run out, cut the plant, left the stump. Okay. That stump there, those stumps are the first run, took about 2 months, 3 months maybe to break down completely where I could just, almost pull them out. The roots were just completely dissolved and it was just nothing but a little stick coming up, a little stump coming up out of the ground. Now, a couple of weeks, man, and they are just nothing to them. The moisture around the stalk is just completely degraded. The bark around so I can just peel the bark right off, like in layers off of that stump, off of that cannabis stump. Just peel it off because it's just being broken down by all the biology, and it's just that constant moisture. At the right amount of moisture, these guys can work 24/7 nonstop. That's why you say that you saw some full bellies. I guarantee you they were full bellies because I've been lining that creek edge with that sand and silt and then bringing that same sand and silt into the soil layer. And then that's what basically what you're looking at right there underneath the microscope used to be down at the reservoir. Okay, that's what the sand, the silt, the clay, and all that organic matter down at the reservoir. I brought it up. I laid it out in the asphalt driveway. I cleaned it with the sun, put it all back in a bucket, and then I lined the creek's edge and the creek, inside the creek where the water is, but then brought it up over the creek wall. I didn't mix it into the soil. I just laid a nice inch layer all the way across the top of the soil. And then I put the organic matter on top. This was on the first run now. So then I brought in, then after the first run, so all that sand and silt just was completely destroyed. It took a couple of months to really break down into worm things. But now that I've got IMO 3 and 4 on top of that layer, I put another layer of sand and silt on top, but not as thick. I just kind of sprinkled it on. And then put my mulch layer back on top.
So
That's all I've done. That's all I've done.
Yeah, you've hit on a number of topics, and I was just looking for my pen so I can write them down as you talk, because all of the things you just said are important talking pieces on understanding stuff. So we'll start with the water, the aquatic water. That was the foundation of all of my work since I was a kid. It was understanding the value of using fish water to grow plants. And that was when, right after the divorce, I decided I was going to take a left turn in my life and focus on things that filled my soul and not just my pocket. And that's what led me to Rodale. So I called them or nicknamed them AMOs, so aquatic microorganisms. And I had serious debates with Elaine about their importance and the value of them. And she argued to some degree, no. Aquatic microorganisms belong in an aquatic environment. Terrestrial organisms belong, on the soil, above ground. And I debated her. I said, Elaine, think about this, right? Before mass human expansion, when we had mass animal and bird migration, what do you think was happening? They were bringing all those AMOs up on the land, whether it was on their feathers or in their hair, whatever. So they were re-inoculating the terrestrial organisms with aquatic microorganisms by default. And that's why the planet was so beautiful and so fruitful and lush until we started fucking up those cycles by killing all the animals off so that mass migration wasn't going to happen anymore. So I think the lesson to learn here is that the value of aquatic microorganisms is only biomimicking what happened before humanity fucked it up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how important it is. And a lot of people don't understand that fish and aquatic aquatic animals or mammals have two stomachs. They have a stomach on the outside of the body and they have a stomach on the inside of the body. And that was through evolutionary strategies. And by that, I mean that the organisms on the outside of the body could solubilize, not remineralize, solubilize minerals that were in the water, that were attached to the water molecules. And once they solubilized it, then they could release it into the animal, the organism, to support his vitamins and mineral needs. And obviously the stomach on the inside is for, consumption, whatever you eat. But any aquatic mammal or animal that you say throw into a reverse osmosis water is going to be dead very quickly because they're not able to solubilize the minerals. And so when you're using fish water, guess what you're getting? Solubilizing bacteria. So you're making available all those minerals that are locked up in your soil, your sand, silt, and clay, that the bacteria can't get out unless they have the ability to solubilize. So that's why your aquatic water works so well. And I just wanted to hammer that home so people really understand that you're not just full of shit. This isn't witchcraft. It's behind it.
You'd be amazed at some of the questions. I mean, and I know I have a lot of followers on Instagram now, so it's like, I get a lot of questions from all types of people. And I was talking to Ken too. I was just like, man, some of the questions I get is crazy, but I have to remember, I didn't know anything about this stuff either just 3 years ago. I would have thought I was crazy 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So I have to come at this. It's like I got to remind myself, like, I got to put it in layman's terms because I'm not an educator. I need somebody like yourself to explain this to me. I can't explain. And that's what I was trying to tell people is like, I'm not a teacher. I really can't explain to you exactly what's going on here. I just know what I see. I know the basics, and the fundamental basics of life, the fundamental basics of soil biology and, aquarium biology, like water biology, what you said, aquatic biology and terrestrial. Well, I think just like on land where you have those prairie lands, you have the grasslands, and that's where it starts, that successional time frame where you get grass to bushes to trees to old growth forest. And I think right on that line where that bacteria, fungi, meet at that line of fungal to bacteria dominance where the tree line starts, basically, is where the fungal starts. Which when you get to that wood for the food, for the fungi to eat, that's when they really start to populate. This is just what I'm seeing, and what I've been kind of learning from you guys and everybody else on YouTube. There's so many different people to educate, to learn soil science from now, and not just in the cannabis community. I mean, all just the regenerative. It's really actually starting to catch on.
So one of the things is be careful of the word soil science.
Yeah.
Soil science means that you're only focused on two things: chemistry and geology. All right. That's why it's so important to differentiate yourself from them, because you've got biology. So you are way more valuable, way more important than any soil scientist. I don't care how many letters you have behind your name. They never learned about biology. They're always
doing PhD behind my name.
They always say, don't worry about biology, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put more fertilizer.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah. So again, when you talk about this, you're a student or a promoter of Soil Food Web, which is taking biogeochemical reactions into play.
Correct.
Limited. And remember, end of the day, soil science is only 3 parts or 2 parts of the third. So the most the soil scientists can ever get is at 66. That's pretty much considered failing in today's society, right? Seriously, think about that, right?
Yeah. That's crazy. I know.
Yeah. So propose or promote yourself as a follower of Soil Food Web and microbiology, along with some of the principles of soil science. Now,
I was talking about Dr. Elaine Ingham today, and I was just like, it all kind of stems back to her work. Everybody that I listen to on this subject kind of falls back to her, and her work. And
she started it all, dude. She started it all. She fought tooth and nail against soil science to prove that soil biology was just as important as chemistry and geology. And she got beat the fuck up for 40 fucking years because of the education system.
A light bulb went off in my head when you mentioned, this was years ago, actually, when you mentioned, you were talking about your story with Elaine Ingham, and I know some people have probably heard the story, but, where you were talking about the aquatic and the terrestrial. And that's where I think this system really shows that line, that terrestrial aquatic line, that the edge of that creek is where that life can form. Like you said, I didn't expect you to say there was a lot of fungus, a lot of fungal activity in that soil because it was so close to the creek, and I don't see any mushrooms. I don't, there's no mushrooms popping. So I didn't expect you to.
So the reason the mushroom pops, for 2 reasons. Number one, it's getting old and it wants to reproduce its children. Sometimes it's seasonally driven. So now we're coming out of winter and going into spring. So mushrooms are going to start popping all over out here.
Yeah.
And the last thing is because they're concerned that they're going to die and they have to leave that legacy on. So just because you don't see mushrooms doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean that your soil isn't fungally dominant, because you pretty much are. So don't worry.
That's what I was thinking. I know I have it in there. And I was just thinking it's not fruiting because it doesn't need to, maybe.
Exactly. And something else that you said about a lot of crazy questions and that you're not a teacher. Dude, you are a fucking teacher. And it's so important that you get those stupid questions. And then you say to these people, hey, I did a podcast on this. I did a post on this. Please go listen to that and come back with a reasonable, responsible, and educated question. And I'll be more than happy to answer you. I mean, dude, you have no idea how much I went through that in the first few years of getting involved on the public platforms, the cannabis. Oh my God, 24 fucking 7, my phone was blowing up with stupid questions. And a
Yeah.
lot of them were repetitive. And it was like, dude, I just talked about this here or on this platform. I did a whole podcast on that. So do your work, man. Go educate yourself. So that
That's the thing, that man. The education, man, is there. Like the knowledge is there. Like YouTube platforms, like that, all over these platforms, the education is there. It's so, you just have to know where to look and who to listen to, and really, how do you want to grow?
remember,
How can
people are flat out lazy.
Yeah, people are lazy, man. You got to make it simple. Like I got 100,000 followers on Instagram simply because I wasn't lazy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I built something. You know what I mean? I didn't just throw something in a pot and say, let me throw a bunch of different things at this plant to see if, coconut and this and that, all these amendments, I was just like mind blown about all this stuff. When I walked into a grocery store, I was like, this is a cereal aisle at a grocery store.
Right.
That's all this is. It's full of all the same shit, just in different recipes. That's all it is.
And again, I'm trying to give you tools to not only support your mental health and the amount of hours that you have in a day. Is basically when you get these off the wall questions, just refer them back to a podcast or a post and say, stop being lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back to me with a good question. Back to me with a good question. I'm more than happy to answer a good question, but I'm not going to waste a bunch of time trying to teach you on something that you didn't try to learn first.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, especially when I wrote it in the comment, exactly the question, and then they come back with like, oh, I should have wrote the question. Damn, my bad.
Right. So again,
and I completely agree with that because I've done it myself. So I'm not downplaying anybody who's done that. You know what I mean? Because I've done that, especially when I was new to the internet. I'm new to, these platforms, so I don't really know where to look, and I didn't even know there was description on YouTube. I didn't know that people were putting their links down there. So,
dude, we
all got to learn. We all got to learn somewhere, and that's kind of where I was going with this. Is that people think that I'm like way above on the knowledge than I actually am, and I just built something, and now I'm watching it grow, and that's what I want to tell a lot of people is that. This is more of an education for myself and everybody else, and I'm just putting it on TV basically so we can watch it together.
Yeah, it's a learning journey.
Yeah, exactly.
And you never, as soon as you stop learning, you become an expert, and as soon as you become an expert, you're going to be replaced.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you become an expert, you become a dickhead. That's
right. So you need to always be learning.
Yeah.
Right, and you need to encourage them that they need to learn. And again, we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty as all hell because I'm down in the lane going, well, I don't understand any of this. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she basically send me into the Rodale Library and say, go to this section. I forget what it's on. Search until you find it. Go read it and then come back and ask me an intelligent question.
Yeah, you gotta kind of prove that you're at least interested.
You're making an effort. You're not trying to suck the fucking data.
Exactly. Yeah. I put 3 years of education before I even got on YouTube, before I even started a channel on Instagram. I was sitting in the truck listening to you guys for 3 years during COVID. 19, 20, 21, I was just, sucking up information as much as I possibly could. And you guys were putting it out with Living Soil. I was listening to Living Soil Conversations today. I listened to the one where you with Luna Whitcomb, and Luna was talking about how she was just, I just don't like these, putting things in certain areas, it was just like plant a seed, watch it grow, let's not be pigeonholed into one particular thing. And I was like, yeah, let's take this and aquaponics and take, permaculture, and let's take pond life, and let's take a fish tank, and let's do all this and put it together. And what would we get? And
it's about being a steward.
Yeah. And now all I have to do is steward the land. Mm-hmm. And it works on its, but you have to have knowledge, a little bit of knowledge on how the land works itself. So the biology is working for me constantly. So I treat it like it's my business, you know. So I have employees, but it's my job as a manager to provide my employees with the material that they need to do the job. If they can't do the job, then once that material runs out, I have to replenish that material. The same thing in this system. As it being taken by my workers, I have to replenish, but I'm replenishing with what was exactly right in the bed. So I'm just taking from the bed and giving right back to the bed. So the plant is actually giving me my return. So as I'm chopping and dropping, I'm giving back to the soil. And as I'm bringing that algae out of the water, I'm feeding the soil. As I'm adding sand, silt, and clay, I'm feeding biology. All these, I'm just in my head, I'm like, I'm feeding. Let's feed. You know, I want to feed the soil, not the plant.
Yep.
You're
being a steward.
Yeah, that's it.
And I wouldn't say you're feeding the soil. I would say you're building the soil.
Building. It really is. Yeah, you're right. Because I'm doing layers. That's very important. I think it's layers of life. Is how I like to look at it. You know, I'm basically each succession is just a layer. Boom, boom, boom. Like say back in the ancient times when people would, you know, set up their huts next to rivers, streams. They were always close to water because water was life. And the floods would come down and replenish their farmland. You know, things would grow a lot better after the floods would bring down all that sand and silt and organic matter down from the mountains. And that's kind of what's going through my head when I'm putting sand, silt, and clay and organic matter down on my soil around the edge of that creek bed where there's life and there's moisture constantly around that soil, around the edge of that creek. And it's breaking down so fast and turning that silt and sand and clay into basically worm castings right in front of my face. And then I can still see, like what you were saying, like that, what that soil I sent you, that's basically sand, silt, and clay. It was that sand, silt, and clay just 10 months ago. You know what I mean?
The organic matter. She's 1/4 of the puzzle. So sand, silt, clay, and organic.
Sand, silt, clay, organic matter. Yeah.
Don't be a soil scientist. Be a soil biologist or a follower of the soil food web, which is the soil food web is highly focused on that.
Yeah, I'm all about soil food web. I talk about it all the time on my YouTube.
You know, something else I wanted to bring up was your interesting observations about the root balls. So this was something that I used as a instrument for clients that I had back in, 18, 17, whatever it was, cannabis boom. And I would get a lot of people, saying, oh, this living soil shit doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, you're kind of in a transition period because you really don't understand how to speed it up. I'm just trying to get you to a point where you're comfortable enough that you'll trust it enough to let it steward it and not try to control it, not try to pump it full of NPK. And so I'd often say to them, I'm like, hey, go pull a fucking root ball from an NPK bed, and then pull a root ball from your living soil bed or your horizontal system.
You're not going to pull one from mine because there ain't none left.
That is the ultimate reality slap for these kids.
It was crazy.
Remember, the weed growers tend to have an ego, right? And to me, I was always, you guys, you just grow a plant. Oh no, we grow we're religious, we're spiritual, blah blah blah. And I'm like, there's plenty of other plants you can use to go see God, dude.
Yeah.
A plant grower. So get over yourself, lower your ego so that you can actually learn.
Yeah, I agree.
Some of these people I'd get through to, others I didn't. But when I did get through to them and they did go pull root balls side by side in different soil systems, they would always come back and go, oh my God, the root ball's gone. What happened? And I'm like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. The biology turned that root ball into nutrients that the cannabis plant wants. So when you plant again in that area, all of a sudden that plant doesn't have to work as hard. It's not mining.
It's all right there, already broken down, already ready to go.
Their food, man. It's their turkey dinner. It's everything that the best meal they love.
It's right them. Yeah, they're cannibals. They're cannabis the cannibal, man. They love eating themselves, man. Great, like chop and drop. It's best food in the world.
Everything does. Everything in one form or another is either a predator or a cannibal. But even though if they're a predator and they're eating a different species, they're still fertilizing the soil around it, which is making it easier for that species to grow so they have more food. Think about that for a minute, right? They're still creating the same loop. They're still creating the same loop, even though they're not eating their own. They're just providing the environment for what they do feed on, right? So, again, these are all like super important conversations to have so that, when your listeners are, I'm assuming a lot of them will listen to this podcast because they follow you. And so that's good. These kinds of conversations are going to prevent your newer followers from coming back and asking stupid questions because they're going to be, oh, damn, you're right. I am being trying to make him tell me everything, tell me how to do things, which is what they're used to. They're program in school to do what I tell you to do. And so
it's a program system.
We hate them for coming back at us with stupid questions because that's what they were taught to do. It's up to us to shift the note, to shift the gear, to change the environment, and get them to get, okay, I can do this. I'm confident enough that I can go figure this out on my own. And then if I can't figure it out, then I'll have at least enough of an education to come back and ask a reasonable and responsible question that this gentleman will take the time to answer. Right? And that's that was a huge lesson, dude.
Like I never would have came on your show like 3 years ago. Like I would have been like, I have no clue what endophytes were, or, all these scientific terminology that can really turn a lot of people off because it took me a long time because I'm a little dyslexic. I don't learn like everybody else learns. So I did very bad in school, but I do very well out in the real world.
I understand. They passed me because they wanted to get rid of me.
Exactly. Yeah, I was very well liked by my teachers, so that's why I got to go through because I was very well liked and I was quiet and I didn't disrupt anybody. But they knew that I should have probably been in another classroom, but I wasn't. I was right on that line, so to speak. You know what I mean? I was like C, D.
You've been programmed to believe dyslexic is bad.
It's not bad. It's not. That's why I was. Yeah,
it's a superpower.
It is. It really is.
It is a
learn who you are. You have to learn. You have to know who you are, though.
You can process information faster than anyone else. That's what makes you ADHD because you're already at 6 fucking questions ahead of everybody else, right? Yeah. It makes you critical think. Like, oh, I don't want to look stupid, so I'm going to think about what I'm going to do before I do it. Exactly. Where all of these formally educated idiots who got great grades in school are so afraid to make a mistake that they won't try.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So ADHD, all of these disorders, or whatever you want to call them, are actually a transition into an evolution out of the past 100 years of this programming bullshit. So consider yourself blessed, and you should wear that like a fucking badge of honor, dude.
Oh, I do, man. Yeah, I love it because it doesn't pigeonhole me into anything. I didn't go to college. I'm straight out into the business world. I always had the mindset that if you could do it, I could do it.
There you go.
And strategic. I always like to call it strategic thinking. There's a good listen that I listened to called The Art of Strategic Thinking.
Yeah.
And that is a really great listen. If you want to listen to an audio book or read a book, it's called The Art of Strategic Thinking. And that really opens up your mind on how you should be looking at things and don't pigeonhole yourself into certain corners. And common sense is so much more valuable than anything, especially when it comes to just like the basic things of life, like the building blocks of life. You know what I mean? Carbon, water, that's what we are. Mostly carbon and water. And then the more I learned, it was just like, holy shit, these aquariums. I had an aquarium at the time, but I don't want it anymore. But I had a saltwater aquarium. And then you started talking about aquatic biology and soil biology and Lane Ingham. And then Chris Trump started talking about putting sea salt in his mix, in his
Yeah, they have a sea salt or seawater.
JMS. Yeah, they put adding sea salt to his JMS. And I was like, sea salt? Why in the hell would you add sea salt? And then so I had to research that. And I was like, okay, we all came from the ocean. Everything pretty much came from the water, you know. So why wouldn't water be beneficial to, you know, everything, basically? And it is. But I guess where I'm going with this, in my head, the system, the pond and the creek and the sand and the silt and the knowledge that you guys gave me to get to that point, once I saw it for myself and I was like, holy shit, this thing, you don't need any amendments. You don't need to be amending things. What we need to do is build a home for biology, for soil biology. We need a good home, because the first thing that something wants to do when they are born is breathe and eat. And then we start establishing everything else, but air and water is first, you know, and then food, and then, but I'm thinking about it as, you know, everything's like this. Why don't I have to build a big enough arena or space to house all this biology so that it doesn't consume itself. So a 4x4 bag is not going to cut it. You know, even a 4x8, you know, in a system like this is what I was trying to, people are asking me, can I do this in a 4x4, you know, in a tent? And I'm just like, I wouldn't recommend this in a tent. I wouldn't recommend this in a 4x4 bag. You might be able to get away with it in a 4x8, you know, but bigger is better, because you need room for life. If you don't have space, things outcompete one another. And then you end up with one species taking over everything. And then this is where bad things happen. You get pests, you get everything. This is the main question I get: how do you keep the pests away? I was like, well, it does it itself. Like the life in the bed keeps the pests away. The healthy soil keeps the pests away, because I need life below and above. But I need the good stuff above and below. I need a balance of both, you know, but I also need those fungus gnats, a few, to feed my spiders and feed, you know, my other things. So a few fungus gnats are great. A few, you know, flies are great, because these flies, I see them, they're not there long. You know, they're there 1 minute and gone the next. So when I see them, I'm like, hell yeah, that's food for my biology. It's food for my spiders, food from my...
It's food for somebody.
For somebody.
I want to reel you back up, because you touched on sea salt, and this is something that, and seawater. This is something that is not well understood or talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Salt water is amniotic fluid. So it's the perfect environment for life to grow out. All right. Whether it's plants, whether it's algae, whether it's bacteria or biology, whether it's fish, seals, whales. I mean, the diversity in the oceans is insane. And like you said, hey, we all basically came out of the ocean. Yep. So why is salt water so good? Because it has sea salt. What is sea salt? It has 90 of the 120 essential minerals in both the macro and the micro and the nano sizes that can be absorbed by the biology to stimulate making more food, for more growth, for other organisms, more diversity, etc. So do I recommend sprinkling sea salt on your bed? No, that's
not what we're saying. Yeah, that's what I was getting. I did a pinch in a JMS.
Right. If you did a pinch in a mason jar, and shook it up and let it dissolve, and then added that into your aquarium, your terrarium, your terrestrial system, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to kill it.
It's beneficial.
Right. Again, don't be a moron.
Exactly.
But you won't be a moron. We're talking about trace. Trace means very small amount.
Trace elements. Yep.
But if you don't put the trace in, then you are limiting the plant's ability to function. You are limiting the plant to build its plant defenses, which keeps the predators away. So all of these things are super important. Like I talk about molybdenum a lot. And everyone's like, what the fuck is molybdenum? And they're like, isn't that a heavy metal or something? Or doesn't it help to, like create pictures like with film? And I'm like, all right, so molybdenum is a trace element. It should be at least 1 part per million. I'd rather see it up around 2 parts per million. It is one of the most important heavy metals that are required for healthy plant growth. If you don't have it, you limit the number of functions that plant can perform, whether they're enzymatic, whether they're biological, whether they're exudate leaking, whether photosynthesizing. Molybdenum goes across the spectrum, right? So again, a pinch of sea salt is going to have molybdenum. Like the compost I made just recently, shit, man, I killed it. I think I got 2.3 parts per million molybdenum. So whoever uses that, and trust me, most of the jobs I do, there is no molybdenum in the soil. And so to be able to produce a product that I use as whether it's an extract, a tea, or a top dress, it doesn't matter. It's going to have enough molybdenum for probably my lifetime and anybody behind me.
Yeah, you'll never have to do it again, basically.
You'll never have to do it again, correct. Yeah. But you got to get to that baseline because biology is only limited by chemistry. And by that, I mean diversity and for its ability to leak out the nutrients in a plant available form that the plant needs. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the right bacteria, you're not going to move forward. If you don't have the right chemistry, you're never going to evolve. And that's at the end of the day, it's about diversity and evolution. And what you're seeing in your bed now is that evolution. Like it's getting better and better and better.
Exactly. And I wanted to point out too, because the sea salt and the JMS, I did a pinch, but I've only done 2 JMSs in a year's time. So I'm not doing a JMS every 2 weeks or once a month. That would be 12 times. That would be 12 pinches. That's a lot of salt over the course of a year.
Well, it's not so much the salt.
That's not what I'm doing. So.
But again, it's being a moron.
Right.
You're putting more on than you need.
Right.
And once you establish the entire ecosystem, you don't need JMS. System will take care of its own. Just be the steward. Make sure it stays wet.
Exactly.
Healthy, and the plants stay healthy. That's all you got to do. Hey, if you see a serious reduction or a bad plant expression, now you can start thinking about, all right, what happened? Right. Maybe I ought to send another soil sample off to Leighton or Andy down at Rise's Science, Rise's Dot Science. So that
I can pretty much know. I know now what if something goes wrong. Like I know what it is. It's almost always water related. It's where water has not gotten to where it's not getting to where, and like you say, things are cysting up. You get little dry pockets towards the rock wall where the water isn't wicking all the way up, and in these little pockets you'll get these dry zones. But what I notice is all I got to do is do a string of that sand and silt and that clay from the creek, and just right to that dry pocket, and that water will wick that line. Instead of doing a whole bunch, like trying to get it to there, you only need a bridge, like one line bridge to that dry pocket, and that water will go. It'll get wicked through that sand, silt, and clay right to that dry hole there, and it'll continue to wick there until the worms break it all down and then break the bridge down, and then I have to come back and do the bridge again. But think of the sand and silt and the clay and the organic matter as a bridge for the water to flow to the soil pocket. So that's what I'm doing with that sand, silt, and clay, is just creating a water bridge to where I want the water to go. Yeah, and that's how I can regulate it.
Yeah, it's like an artery or a vein.
Yeah, just like an artery. Yep, same thing.
Yep, and that's really cool that at a certain point, the soil sends a message out to the worms or the bacteria or biology does. Say, hey, we don't want any more water. Can you go disassemble that vein?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny. I can literally. I was telling Ken too that I needed to find the valve. I needed to find how to regulate the water. And that was the biggest thing about this whole project. It was regulating that water because I really wanted it to wick itself, and I really wanted it to water itself. I didn't want to have to continue to use the wand. So I used to, at the beginning, the first couple of months, I was doing a morning dew, so to speak. I was morning dewing everything, making sure everything stayed nice and wet on top. And I was noticing problems immediately. Like within a month's time frame, I was like fungus net heaven. It was just the moisture was in the wrong spot, so to speak.
Either too much or not enough.
Yeah, it was too much, and then it wasn't enough. And I was like, how can I regulate this and get it to the point where it's constant and it's the right amount? Well, and that's when I came up with the vein. Instead of having the whole like a wide bridge, I narrowed the bridge until I figured out how wide the bridge needed to be. There's my regulator. So the width of the bridge regulates how much water I get to the hole.
And depends on how big the dry spot is.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're using a wider bridge in a drier spot, and then you just let nature straighten it out, and you don't have to do a thing. You're being a steward. Yep. And, I think that's probably one of the most valuable lessons that we as humans gain through experience. We learn all these hard lessons, and the good ones stick with it, and they say, okay, I learned this lesson. I'm not going to be a fucking moron, or I'm not going to be stupid about this. I learned this lesson, so I'm not going to repeat it. Like if you're insane and you repeat it over and over and over again, expecting different results, right? But now you have the ability to share these experiences with your followers, who obviously, with the volume of followers you have, you've excited a lot of people about this method. And this is beyond the horizontal soil system. We would call this polyculture, because you have aquatic polyculture. You get turtles, your shrimp, your fish, all the little other microorganisms that are living in the water, rotifers. And then you also have a similar situation terrestrial. So you have created a very diverse ecosystem using the principles of the horizontal soil system.
Yeah,
you're beyond me, dude. You're my teacher now. No, I want you to pat yourself on the back, man.
I appreciate that. But goddamn, that's a huge compliment. But I would invite you to my house so you could actually see what's going on here. Or
I can follow my new faithful leader. Wash your feet.
I'll let you. Johnny you can sleep in Johnny's room.
No, look, as a species, as people on a mission, we need to encourage each other, remind each other that you've done something super special, and if you look up to me, I need to remind you I'm looking up to you, dude, because you did this.
I appreciate that.
You did this, dude. You didn't fight it. You didn't quit. You just kept going and going and going until you figured it out. And now, anybody else that builds this, you can teach them through experience, not all the hard lessons that you learned. So they can avoid all those hard lessons. So they don't quit halfway through. So they have an easy transition into this ecosystem. Because remember, at the end of the day, most people who start projects, especially something this complicated, they'll get halfway through and lose interest because it's too hard, or they don't have time, or they don't care about it enough.
Yeah, I was almost there. I actually had. There was one time I can tell you, my wife that came inside and I was almost in tears. I'd put, 9 months into building this thing, and I was just like, I'd had the water running multiple times and I just couldn't get it. It was just flooding. It was flooding every time. And I was just like, what the fuck? How in the hell is I've bitten off way more than I can chew. I probably built the whole damn thing wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, it's probably on too much of a plane. It's probably too much water running down. It's not, that's probably leaking out the pond. Everything that I did, I'd never done before. It was all the first time thing. And what I'm doing is literally, I can't be undone. Like I literally have to take a sledgehammer to it if I wanted to restart. So once I started, I was like, once I get to this certain point, there's no turning back.
Right.
And plus, I'm putting it online, so I look like a retard, or not, excuse my language, but I look like an idiot if I get this wrong. But then in my head, I was like, well, you know what? All I have to do really is just, water the bed. Like my dream of basically it not watering itself, might not come true, and I'll just have to water it, and it'll just be a cool system. But
So,
really, what I was after was that wicking action that you were talking about.
Was the key to it. Let me express something to you. So I had the privilege with working with Ben and Molly from The Biggest Little Farm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, these guys are superstars, man. Everywhere they go, people want their autographs. They're like, "Oh my God, the movie was incredible. It inspired me." I mean,
is that the one up in Maine?
No, this is out here in California.
Okay.
In Moore Park, they took a abandoned, rundown farm and turned it into a documentary called The Biggest Little Farm.
Okay.
The real name of the farm is called Apricot Lane, if you want to research it. But I would recommend that at some point you actually find the movie, The Biggest Little Farm. So here they have me roll up, doing a kind of a talk to some of the higher level managers on the farm about soil biology, compost making. Before I knew it, like every single department had emptied out and was hearing, texting and all this other shit. You got to hear this. You got to hear this guy. You got to hear this guy. And all of a sudden, then Ben and Molly roll up. I didn't know idea who they. Well, I knew them from their picture in the movie, but they didn't look exactly the same, so I wasn't really quite sure. But like the crowd parted, so I'm like, okay, these are important people. And Molly just bellied up the ramp in my box truck and was watching me, talking about microscopy and how to do it. And she's like, "Can I look?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Molly, sure, no problem. I'll whip you up a slide and then I'll get back to the talk." So I continue to talk, and then Ben rolls up, and I could tell like his persona was all pretty much ego. Like I'm the bomb, I'm the man, and you got to understand they're actors. They're actors and actresses. So if they don't have an ego, they ain't gonna make it, right? But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep your ego in check. Yeah. So he kind of like was getting a little bit frustrated that all the attention was on me and no one was like really recognizing him for being there supporting this. And he shot off some comment that was a little derogatory. So what I did to him was I turned around and said, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to thank you, sir, with all due respect. You had the courage to put your life failures, struggles on a movie. You didn't hesitate to release it on that movie. You were in various stages of like crying and being upset and ready to give up. And you put that on film. You weren't afraid to embarrass yourself. Dude, I have huge respect for you." And right after that, he lit up like a Christmas tree. He became all friendly with the crowd. It wasn't all about him anymore. And he started to listen and want to learn more about what I was talking about. I couldn't get Molly off the microscope. That girl sat down and she was just looking at slides for an hour, the whole conversation. But at the end of it, he came up and gave me, shook my hand and said, "Hey, I really appreciate you coming out to the farm and really helping my staff to better understand how we can improve our systems to be more successful in our farming." So you did the same thing, dude. You were not embarrassed to put your emotions, your heart and soul on public spotlight. And that's to be commended. That's like dyslexic. That's a superpower. Nobody does that. Nobody puts fucking posts on Instagram of their failures. You only see their successes.
I had a couple of my buddies were like, "You're fucking nuts." I was like, "Yeah, well, in high school, I had a license plate on my on my car, said Crazy Hayes, and I was like,
"Hey,
I've always been a little crazy."
You're a fool. You should own it. You should own everything.
I do, so I appreciate all the compliments too. It's you're the reason I'm here, pretty much. You and Marco Brown, and Peter, Peter from Future Cannabis Project. You guys put things together for somebody like me to do something like this. So,
and then you turned around and put all the pieces together
Yes.
Other people to learn how to build an ecosystem.
Yes. Basically, that's what I did.
Up on the back.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get
It's a circle. It's all a nice circle.
Yeah. Circle of love, man.
That's right.
Well, I also want to finish up on
My center bag.
your center bed, number one.
Yeah.
No, number one was side. Number two.
Number one was side. Number two. Yeah.
Center. Yep, center bed. So what I found in the center bed, I might have got this confused. I did. So the center bed had a lot less protozoa.
Okay. I figured that because that's the part that's disconnected from the creek.
Yep, and it had less nematodes, kind of mediocre fungi, couple of facultative anaerobes, which you start throwing that word around, people freak out. But what I try to explain to people is that facultative anaerobes are symbols. They're evolutionary organisms that are showing you that something's in transition. A lot of facultative anaerobes feed the lower life forms of bigger animals. In other words, if you are a fish breeder, or if you ever gone to a creek or a lake that used to catch a shit ton of fish on, right?
Yeah.
So you're not catching them anymore, and you're wondering why. Well, so what happens is the synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, they get into the groundwater, they leak into that lake, river, stream, because that lake, river, stream is the indicator of the height of the groundwater. So it's going to get there one way or another, whether it runs off by the rain or whether it travels underground to get there. So when you have exposure to these, you lose what's called rotifers and a lot of other paramecium and other lower level facultative anaerobes. So facultative means it can live in an oxygen environment or it can live in an anaerobic environment. So they're really strong and powerful creatures or biology because most biology can only be in one or the other. They do not survive in the opposite. They die. There's no cyst. They go.
Right.
Especially over long term. But needless to say, the fish cycle, it goes from egg to larvae to fingerling to fish. So in the larval phase of the fish, it lives solely on facultative anaerobes. It doesn't have enough mouth or digestive system to actually process algae or any other food. It can only live on those organisms. So now you have a trout or a bass or whatever comes in and spawns in there. And when those spawn, the eggs hatch and turn into their larva phase, they starve to death instantly or within weeks, right? Within days. I don't know.
No food. Yeah.
It depends on the species, right? And how hardy it is. Because a lot of the larval phases will have a yolk sac under them. So they have like a backpack, a certain amount of supplies that they can live off until they learn to hunt and find these, anaerobic facultative anaerobes that they can live off until they transition into these higher forms of food like algae and even fish and other organisms, not only microorganisms. So that's the sad part. So, but I love to see facultative anaerobes. I don't want to see the whole thing facultative anaerobes.
Yeah.
But what it tells me is that it's in some kind of transition. So it could be a beneficial transition or it could be a negative transition. So I would highly recommend you keep your eye on that area and just make sure you're not seeing plant reaction that is not beneficial. If you're continuing to see healthy plants, make sure it's water, make sure it's moist, but don't freak out.
Like I checked with the moisture meter just before I actually came in here, and it was it's still wet. Just when you stick the thing, it was super wet.
Well, hey, that's a problem too. If it's super wet, it's going to go anaerobic.
Yeah, I'll say super wet. It's at that wet line. I'm just using one of those little cheap old Amazon water meters. I don't really ever use it to just make sure, I can just stick the first little probe part down like an inch and it'll read moisture. And then the further down I go, it's going to go on up to like wet, but it's not like saturated. Then the further down I go, it just stays wet. So the center pot, I mean, like I said, that center is separated from everything else. That's the only part of the bed that is separate from everything else.
So let me ask you a question. Does that center bed have a drainage system?
Yes. It's all same drainage, same drainage. The problem that I think I have is that the center, the creek runs around two edges, where on the others only one edge gets the creek.
All right. So maybe
I just need to, what I think I need to do is just remove the sand and silted clay from one of the edges of the center bed.
Yeah, and slow it down, because
slow it down.
My gut feeling is, based on your description, it's getting too much moisture and not enough.
Yeah. It's getting too much, not enough to like where the plants look great. I mean, that's where the biggest plants are, actually. The biggest plants in the whole bed are in the center. So, and they don't have any disease. I mean, they look great. You know, there's nothing going wrong with those. And that's why I know that it's right on that line. You know what I mean? Like, it's not too wet. If it was too wet, then I would see problems. But it's right on that wet line where the plants are in biology. If I just stick my finger down in there, I mean, I can feel wet. I mean, it's wet, but I can also feel worms and critters, and you know, there's no perlite in there. So the aeration is all done by biology and the IMO 4 and 5 that I put in, but that's all been broken down by now anyway. So it's just basically.
I would just say, don't even think about the side bed. It's functioning 100%.
Yeah.
I would put your stewardship focus on the center bed, because it takes time for things to go sideways. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's going to go slowly over time.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, you probably ought to get an account, if you have enough money, with Rhizos.sciences for $150 and less. She has what's called a scan now. I think it's only $75. And she'll go back and tell you, okay, I did find this, I didn't find this, I saw this. Or you could send them to me. Either way, I don't care. I'll do the test for you for free. But bottom line is, somebody needs to be just keeping an eye on it. It's not a crisis, but we don't want to let it get to that point of crisis because we weren't diligent in our stewardship.
Let me ask you this quick question. If it did get to that crisis point, what would be the solution? Like, where would you go to fix that problem? Would you pull it all out and start over, or would you?
I would find a way to create some other form of drainage. Like maybe it would be to dig a hole or core sample a hole of soil out of it,
and see what's up.
And then put a pipe in there to give the water a place to go, and then periodically pull it out with a shop vac or soak it up with a paper towel and then pull it out. I don't think you don't want to go to the problem of rebuilding it. It's just a matter of what we call innovation, right? And all of life is a lesson. So if you're not innovating, you're not being a good steward. You're not learning. But to innovate something to solve a problem is a very powerful thing. Again, this isn't a problem. It's a fucking lesson, right?
No,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. At the end of the day, one of your future followers or clients maybe calls you and say, hey, I did this, I did that, I followed you, perfectly spot on, but this has happened. You can say, okay, well, let's figure out why. And here's a way to physically get a better idea on how much water is actually being stored in the E-horizon. If the E-horizon is never draining out, it's always present, always full, you're going to end up with problems eventually.
Going to have a problem. Yeah, it's going to go anaerobic, right?
Yeah, well, it won't go anaerobic as much as the A-horizon will. Right. The A-horizon will go anaerobic because it's always sitting on top of moisture just above the moisture level in the E-horizon.
Yep.
And again, if you didn't put a drainage pipe of some kind, half to a quarter inch below the A-horizon to prevent this and eliminate it from happening, it's fine. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But that's what I pound home is I'm like, dudes, you got to listen to me at this point. If you're going to do this, you have to have a way for moisture, i.e. liquid water, to escape. You never want it so full that the A horizon is sitting on top of that soaking wet sand, or it will go anaerobic and we'll have problems.
Yep.
1/2 inch to 1/4 inch down from the top of the sand in the beginning of the A horizon, you got to have a pipe, you got to have a tube, you got to have a slit, something. So any excess moisture can come out of that and prevent the E from being soaking wet all the way up to the A.
That's where the whole plane, the 1-inch plane, the whole bed, actually my floor, before I even laid the box down, where I had squared off for the bed, for the garden to go, I basically put floor level, and I floor leveled up a 1-inch plane on the floor. So my bedrock, basically, where the water goes, will go down, hit that plane, and run down through that sand and silt down to the corner where my hole is. And that hole is where you could see how much water is there, if there's any water there. I know the system works great because of that hole, because when I cut the plants, it fills up with water. When the plants get big,
interesting. It shows how much the root balls are holding.
Yep. So that's how I can tell how much water is actually being uptaken by the cannabis plants, because if there's no, like I said, there's no water in the hole, like there's no water in the hole right now. But when I cut, as soon as I cut those flowers, the next morning, okay, there was water in that hole.
So maybe we ought to approach the issue a different way and saying, maybe those plants, because they're doing so exceptionally well in that center bed, they're holding too much moisture, and they're causing that problem to happen because they're not allowing that moisture to continue through back into the pond.
Yeah, they're literally just, they're sucking up so much water. Like every 2 days, 2 to 3 days, I have to add about 4 gallons to the pond, and there's no water in the bottom. So everything in the bed is and I'm dehuing fresh water back in. So I'm pulling all the water that they're evaporating off and putting it back in the bed. And I still have to add about 2 to 3 gallons of water every.
Well, you know what? Again, if this problem or the situation persists, maybe it is, okay, I got to take one of the plants out of that center bed. Maybe I have to grow something different in there, so it's not holding all that moisture.
Like I said, I think I just got to remove some of that sand and silt. I have a very wide bridge right now going.
Okay. Well, start with what you know, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to start with, and I guarantee, I'm pretty sure now that you've told me what I'm looking at, and and you're seeing those things, I'm almost positive that that's going to work. So tomorrow morning, when I go in and do my YouTube video, you're going to see me remove some of that off of that side wall. And that's going to reduce the amount of water going into the center bed. So, and I'll leave it like that for a while, then I'll send you another sample and see what happens.
We'll go from there. And definitely like text me or DM me if you're going to send a sample, just so I know it's coming and I'm not
of course.
running around like an idiot and leave it in my mail.
No. I would never do that to you. I'll show up at your door, man. Come on now.
All right, brother. Anytime. Anytime. All right. So first thing I'd like to do is ask you if you have any more pertinent questions that you want me to answer. And if the answer is no, I'd like to hop into questions. And
I see a lot of questions.
And hopefully get off a little early today. I'm definitely tired.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if we can get out, a few minutes early, that would be great. All right, Ken, what you got?
Okay, hey Josh, have you thought about starting low and raising your lights throughout each grow?
I don't raise and lower the lights at all. They're all the way to the ceiling. That's where they stay. I have those Grandmaster. I have the Grandmaster LEDs, and I just use the intensity. Like I can adjust the light intensity. I can adjust everything with those things. So it's a real hassle for me to raise them up and down. So I just leave them up, and I'll just turn the intensity up if I need more light and turn it down when I don't. So right now I'm only doing 289 watts for all 3 lights. I'm only running 32% power, and it's all you need, man. My PPFD is sitting around 900 to 1,000 on the tops, around 700-800 around the middles. DLI is around 40, so we're right in there, right in that range. So yeah,
So you're using a meter to register all this, right?
I use my phone, my PPFD meter on my phone. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's basically one you can download on your phone from Google Play Store. It's not the most accurate in the world, but it also it gives you a baseline of where you need to be. Because it also has the DLI and the PPFD all in one kind of app. So you can see both at the same time. And it'll give you a green, good, or bad, red. So if it's good, it'll be in the green. So once you dial in both into the good, it'll both turn green on your phone. And you know you're pretty close to where you need to be. But I will say you do need to change your settings. I screwed up big time and burned up those plants last time by not changing my settings on my phone. When you download that app, if you go into 18 hours, of light, you need to set the app to 18 hours. And then when you go down to 12 hours, you need to adjust the app to where it's only on 12 hours. It'll give you 2 totally different readings.
Gold bars, my friend. Gold bars.
Yeah. 100%.
Your
plant can only absorb so much. And if you're not changing the settings, then you're really overdriving your plants.
Yeah, and it's not the intensity, it's the DLI. It's the amount of light of that intensity that they're getting. So a lot of people are like, oh, I blast my plants with 1200 all that. I was like, yeah, well, your DLI is good. You're not blasting DLI way up here, you know what I mean? And you're gonna burn them up quick, especially the flower. You'll start to see those white hairs start to burn. They'll get brown and burn, and they don't look good.
And if anybody doesn't understand, DLI is daily light integral, and it's how much is based on how much your plant can absorb, how many photons of energy can be absorbed by your plant.
Correct. That's it.
So we'll go on to the next question. Is there anything I can do with leaves with black spot fungus? I usually compost in a Johnson Sioux bioreactor, but I Googled that and you can't use them in compost.
No, you can absolutely use them in compost. You just need heat. Johnson Sioux is low temp. It's a static pile. You're not adding in, a shit ton of nitrogen to get this thing to go off like a rocket ship because you can't turn it. The whole premises behind the Johnson Sioux is you load it and you walk away for a year and you come back. So if you load it with nitrogen and it gets up to 180 and you can't turn it, it's going to start making alcohol and spontaneously combust. So as long as you're using the high nitrogen, and again, this is something you should look into because you've got Elaine's formula, which is 55% browns, 45% greens, and 10% high nitrogen. That high nitrogen can go up and down a little just based on how much you're willing to turn it. So her recipe is a recipe that will get you into 130 plus a number of times so that you can kind of pass the regulatory body of compost making. But it doesn't mean you can't go hotter. I mean, you can go up to 140, 150, no problem, and then flip it. That will kill all the negative or the predatory funguses.
There you go. So it's a matter of getting it up to that right temperature to burn that organism so that it can't reproduce, right?
Yeah, burn it off. If you don't go high enough, it'll just reproduce. And then you're going to have a real big problem. So it's got to get to a temperature that's high enough to kill it off. So I'm not positive on that specific fungus what the level is, but I'd err on the side of safety, and I would go like 160, 170. As long as I don't go above 180, I know I'm not under the threat of creating spontaneous combustion and creating alcohol. So,
Yeah.
but that's what I would do. Hightown, flip often.
Okie dokie. Next one. Light question for Josh. What kind of lights are they, which you, the Grandmaster, do you adjust the spectrum differently since it's not only cannabis plants?
No, I'm not adjusting this, but I'm adjusting the lights for the cannabis, like not for nothing else. Everything else in the room is basically an evergreen. It doesn't care whether it's light or not. It's 12 hours, 18 hours. It don't matter for everything else. Like it's all like grasses but I guess, what was the question again? He asked
What type of lights?
Oh, they're Grandmaster LEDs. They're 4 channels. So I basically got the Ferrari lights because I can adjust. I have 4 different channels. The first channel is a cool white, and then it's a warm white, and then it goes to red, and then deep red. So I haven't been running any reds. I've only been running cool white and warm white, which the warm white has some red in it, but mostly greens and, the full spectrum. I'm going to actually add in a little bit of red and deep red on the 21st. So the start of week 4, now that I have the bud structure, I'm going to add in a little bit of reds, try and keep the stretch down. Hopefully the stretch is complete. The one in the center bed, like you see, is already to the light, and I still got freaking 4 or 5 weeks to go. So that thing's probably going to be in the ceiling. So I'm going to have to tie that down to keep it from going up past the light. But the Grandmasters are awesome because I can adjust those spectrum. I can adjust everything. I mean, you name it. I can do all blue. I can just have all blue, no cool white. I mean, no warm white, no reds, just all blue. And that really keeps those plants short, stocky, keeps them from stretching like crazy. And it keeps the power bill way down. So I don't have to run 500 watts all the time. Most of the time, I'm under 300 watts. Once I go into reds, I add the reds the last 3 to 4 weeks. I'm probably up around 500 watts power of pushing with the reds and everything with all 4 channels on. But other than that, man, the power bill was nothing. The last, like I said, when you're running all 4 channels, you're running a little bit of power, but not much. So the whole room, actually, to be honest with you, it's less than $100 a month on my power bill. So to be shocking to me. I was expecting more, but with the Grandmasters, I'm not running hardly any wattage at all most of the time because the plants just don't need it. They don't need that blast of light all the time, especially now that I've noticed, actually, they actually like to be turned down a little bit. Like they don't like 1,000 ppfd. They like more like around 650 to 700. That's what they seem to be more green. They really seem to perk up more when they're not being blasted. So I guess it's just the biology, everything. Like everything in the whole grow just seems to do better. The grasses, the elephant ears, the dog fennel, everything seems to do better with low or less intensity, so to speak. Like I don't need to be blasting all the time. It just doesn't seem to.
You don't need Death Valley in your grass. Right?
You don't, man. All the biology is running from the light. I move something and they're like, they don't like the light. The biology doesn't want it. It's just the plants. So, every time I move something, move a rock, move something, they're like, and they take off running. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, Leighton, do you have anything to add on that?
No. I just loved his little. The biology runs. I think he meant to say the microorthopods.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. But
my critters are running, man. My critters. I call them critters.
Yeah. That was beautiful because this goes back to what I preach to everybody is that you need a mulch layer, whether living or whether it's some kind of organic matter.
Gotta cover that soil, man.
Yeah, just to protect that living soil.
Yep.
So thanks for
Splitters,
sharing.
man. Nobody likes to be out in the open. You know what I mean? Like they all need shade. They all need cover. You know, they all want to build that home. You know, they want to build that structure. So
our
just-
next one. Oh,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
our next question is on watering. I love my horizontal sip, but suck at watering. I use an EcoWit and water from the top. I find that I need to run my medium water than others say, you know, around 34%. Am I keeping the soil too wet?
Well, it goes back to, did you put that drain in? If you didn't put the drain in, then yeah, you got a problem. The soil should naturally regulate itself. So the sand will help to wick the water up to the A as the A requires it. And what makes the A require it is that your O horizon dries out and creates a suction or a capillary effect to pull the water up. So I would say look at your design, look at your engineering, make sure that your A horizon, or excuse me, your E horizon is 100% perfectly level. If it is not, then wherever it's low, you're going to be getting your A horizon in contact with the water. And that's a problem. So two things, holes and level. And if you are, both the holes and level are perfect, then yeah, you don't even, people love the system because they only have to water every 2 weeks. And they can leave and come back and not worry about friggin' shit drying out because the E acts as a savings account, a bank account.
I want to say too, you're on a level, and that's like in a pot. You know, like on my system, I have to be on a 1-inch plane because I have pond creek, so that's why I'm on that plane because I want that. I want to be able to see that water. I want if that all that excess water, I want it to come to me basically.
Dude,
so
you built a river.
yeah, I'm dealing with a river. Yeah,
it would be a pond if it was perfectly level.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't be able to remove the water if it did get a problem, you know. So.
Yep. Okay, we'll go to the next one here. Leighton, have you heard of flowering taking longer to finish with the horizontal soil system? Or maybe Josh has noticed it take longer, shorter than the breeder's recommendations?
Faster.
I would say absolutely not. I would say that's purely genetic. You're just providing the right environment, right? So if there's an underlying genetic expression, like it took longer or shorter, then perhaps the breeder was growing them synthetically. And this is something, you know, big red flag, guys. You want to have a breeder that's growing in living soils.
Yep.
We learned this early on. If you try to take seeds that were grown in NPK in the living soil, it's going to take a few generations for them to shake out, for you to figure out what it is.
Yep.
So those are two really big things. Is know your breeder, understand that if it's coming from a synthetic or a living soil, number one. And then number two, I talk to them about, hey, is it possible that you weren't 100% correct on your flowering date or you know, your expression dates? Yeah, most good guys would go, you know what? You know, I kind of was guessing on that. This has only been, you know, an F3, so there are still some hidden expressions that we're kind of learning about as we go. But if you treat people with respect, they will treat you with respect. You go in there blasting guns, accusing him of, oh, you lied to me and you told me it's going to be ready for flower. Don't expect any truth. You'll just get defensive and tell you to go fight.
Be kind, basically. Be kind.
Yeah. Treat people how you want to be treated.
And also consider where it was bred. Was it bred in California at, you know, the ocean level, and you're living, you know, on the top of the mountains in Colorado? There's going to be a difference in the growth cycle until that plant acquires the terroir and you know, gets the feeling for your environment. There's always going to be a change in that. It may not be a huge expression, but if it's a drastic, from sea level to 10,000 feet, there is going to be a change because the plant has to accommodate for that new environment.
It's in that seed, right? Everything's in the seed. Like everything that plant needs is in the seed. So if it comes out, I guess, into my system, coming out of a salt-based system, going into a living system, it's not going to do well. Everything is probably out of whack. You know what I mean? Like in that seed's going to come out and like, what the hell is this? That's just my
life out here, man.
So it is said amongst people who are a lot smarter than me in breeding cannabis, 7 generations in the new environment. So the hippies would get seeds over Pakistan or China or Vietnam, and they come back to Humble and they were a totally different environment. So what they would do to really encourage the genetics to evolve was they would let it go to seed and flower 7 times. On the end of the 7th time, then they would go forward with sexing and keeping all the males out, because they knew that plant had totally transferred to their new environment and that it was at the best level it possibly could be for full genetic expression. So most people don't have 7 generations of crop to steer it, but that's really what it is. It's crop steering.
Yep.
So pay a little bit more close attention to where you are versus where the people that are providing you the seeds, know your farmer, be able to ask the right questions and understand that these expressions are going to come out,
Yeah. If you have the ability to, if you have land or access to land, that's around you, I would use what's around you. Like those are already established, into your environment. So like Leighton, you say, use what's around you that's already established biology to your environment. I'm just basically, this took off so fast because everything I did, I just basically cut it out of the earth and brought it into the side. And it was already there. It was already living. It just needed to reset basically. And it reset super fast. So
that's where Korean Natural Farming talks about doing IMOs and not going too high in elevation for the biology you're grabbing for your grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that it's better to go a little higher than even same elevation. Just don't go lower and come up. They've already done a lot of work, many, many years of this. And so again, it's okay to go a little higher because they're a little tougher up there, but they'll do just fine in your elevation. But if you go lower, the opposite is going to happen.
Huh. And that's something.
Well, it's the kids living in the Bronx to the kids living in California where nothing is happening, right?
Yeah, big difference.
A lot tougher.
Yeah, a little different.
So our next one is, other than that, what you mentioned, do you put any amendments now?
No, nothing.
There's no need. There's enough nutrient in the sand, silt, clay, and organic matter for probably 1,000 years.
Yep. It's all trapped.
You just need the biology to mine it, and that means solubilizing bacteria, all the diversity.
Yep.
Right? If you have all that diversity, it'll be able to nutrify itself, especially you got worms and microorthopods and macroorthopods. It's just a fertilizer factory.
That's what it is. A fertilizer factory. That's exactly what it is.
The warehouse all there in that sand, silt, clay, and organic material. It's amazing how Mother Nature had this all figured out.
Right? And then we came along and said, no, we can do better. Oh, but it's going to.
It blows my mind that we even thought we could do it better. And it was all about money. It all comes down to money, but it just, at this point, in what I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years, I am blown the fuck away at how we got here. How in the world did we come out of World War II and get to this where we are so unhealthy? We have drained the nutrients from our soil so bad and then tried to pump it full of man-made crap and think it's going to work better than what it was before. It just blows my mind. And then I go do something like this really to just prove to myself and taking information from everybody else and putting these pieces together. And I'm like, you know what? All these pieces do fit together. All these people were right. Nature is the ultimate, say so. I mean, if you can mimic her, I mean, that's how we learned how to fly, swim. I mean, we mimic birds, we mimic fish, we mimic all these, we mimic nature. That's what I did. It works. There's no doubt about it. The conversation for me is over if it works or not. Mm-hmm. It just needs to be set up properly. It needs to be set up properly. It needs to be done the right way. If it's done the right way indoors, it's going to take off. There's no way it can't.
And it can be done outdoors too.
Oh, outdoors is easy. I think outdoors is easy. Indoors is crazy. Yeah. Outdoors is pretty simple. I mean, people have figured out, the pond guys and all these people, people have figured out how to do this, just not growing food. They're just not growing nutrient-dense food. I think they're more into the aesthetic. They want to put their feet in the water. They're not focused on growing nutrient-dense food. They're focused on how do I make my backyard pretty.
So Josh, we have a guest coming on soon, Travis from Tap Roots. And
next week.
He does grow a lot of nutrient-dense food. And he's got all of these products like black garlic, which you don't really hear about in mainstream, but how beneficial it is. So we're really excited to have him on and dive deep on both his cannabis farm, but as well as his veggie farm.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing with this. I announced actually on my YouTube a couple of days ago that I'm planning on, that's the next step to this, like separating cannabis, creating a whole new channel, creating a whole new ecosystem dedicated to food in a system just like this, except we're going to grow food. It's going to be a lot better than this because now that I know the steps that I need to take, second time's always better usually when you build something like that. So it's going to be pretty cool, I think, because this one's going to have its own pond. It's going to have its own creek system. It's going to be just like this, except we're going to grow nutrient-dense food. We're going to allow the farm animals basically to roam around, and we'll have lizards and frogs, and we'll allow the turtles to roam around, and it'll be cool. So hopefully I can get more people into like the food aspect of this and realize that nutrient-dense food is where health is. That's if you want to lower your healthcare costs. If you don't want healthcare at all, the healthcare should be your garden. Like the garden is where health comes from. And if you can get nutrient-dense food in your garden, everything else just comes together.
Yeah.
Gut, mind, everything just comes together.
Yeah, I do want to point out that most of the soils out there, they have your sand, silt, clay. They don't have a lot of organic material, but the biggest lack and what mines the sand, silt, clay is the biology. So it's lacking the biology to create the basic building blocks for the plants to be healthy and to put the nutrition back into the plant. So it's not so much that we're lacking the clay and the sand and the silt, it's the biology. And without that biology, mining those building blocks to put into the plant, we can't ever have nutrient-dense food. You have to have the building blocks supplied, and that's only done by the biology.
Yep, remember, soil chemistry is chemistry, geology. That don't work. Food is medicine. We'll never need another pharmaceutical. But the key to that medicine, growing that medicine out of your garden, as Ken said, is the biology and the diversity. Once you have the food web principles in play, you are within a growing season going to have the most amazing food that you've had for a long time in your life.
Yeah, that's what I hope to plan on doing with this is create something where I can take a piece of fruit and say, bite this. I guarantee you. You will kiss my ass after you eat this. I guarantee it.
Most people have never tasted healthy food. It's
It's
amazing.
crazy, man. I'm telling you, my grandfather grew some of the tastiest tomatoes on the planet around here. I mean, to go to a grocery store and eat one after eating one of his was like just like it ain't even a tomato. It's not the same thing because the nutrient isn't in it. And tastes like water. Tastes like water.
Yeah. Strawberries that taste like cardboard. Josh, how are the turtles doing?
Man, they are growing like weeds.
Good weeds.
It's crazy how healthy they are. It's the lab. I know it is that lactic acid bacteria that's going into the pond and the creek.
Yeah.
It just does. I don't know. Leighton could explain it better than I could on the science by it, but I know that lactic acid that lactic acid bacteria that I make with the rice water and the rice and the milk, and get that lab, a shot glass every 2 weeks in the pond.
Yeah, it cleans the pond water, and it instantly associates and basically makes an EM of some kind.
Yep.
Because that's the enzymes and the proteins in the bacteria that support the other bacteria and the other communities. So that's why it is. You're feeding the bacteria that has all the things necessary to create an EM of some kind in your aquatic ecosystem, which is making them so healthy.
And it's just eating up all that bad biology too. Basically, they're just eating it all up, and all that slime. There's no slime on the shells. The fish look just bright, bright orange, from the goldfish. Everything just looks super shiny. I pick the turtle up. It's like squeaky clean.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, everything's doing really well.
Cool. Josh, do you use the clip-on light diffuser for the camera on your phone while using the app? No. Don't even know what that is. We got one more question because I know Leighton wants to run away. Are you using the Grandmaster LED that has the UVC lights? If so, are you using UVC for pest control at all?
No, they sent them to me, but I am not using them due to the fact that they would kill my biology, kill my critters. It would basically, those lights go down low, into the bed where light shouldn't be, and it grows like this. Now I know in cannabis grows, they're great because they keep those pests away. They basically are an aphid eliminator, from what I understand. Thrips, aphids, all that stuff. Spider mites, pretty much that UVC just takes them right on out. But I don't use them in this bed because they're bulky and big, and I like my life to live.
Well, again, you built an ecosystem. Why would you want to start destroying it?
Yeah, I'm not spraying anything. I don't do extracts. I don't do teas. Nothing. This system is set up to basically let the life in the soil break down sand, silt, clay, organic matter forever. All I got to do is add the sand, silt, clay, organic matter. And that comes with basically the chop and drop and just sprinkling the sand and silt clay that I get from the creek down here on my property.
Yeah, recycling.
Yep. That's all.
So we did have one more question come in, and Lily actually came downstairs and said, "You got one more question." So here it is. What is the best vegan substitute for blood meal, or is using blood meal okay in a vegan garden?
I would go with alfalfa meal. I mean, the blood meal is a high nitrogen. And I've never been a big fan of that because you got to think about this. When that cow gets killed, you ever heard of angry blood or mad blood? They go through a stressor. Like they stress the fuck out as they're being killed. So all of that stress, all that cortisol is going into their blood that's now being turned into a meal. So as a vegan or vegetarian, I'd recommend, alfalfa meal. If you can get it organic or regenerative, better. But even if it isn't, it's a plant-based nitrogen source.
Mm-hmm.
Bird feather meal, that's good, but again, you got to worry about the conditions of the birds growing up and how many antibiotics and all that shit they're exposed to. It's just common sense, and look around at what's available for a alternative to blood meat.
Okay, guys. Well, I know Leighton. Sorry, man. We're only going to get 10 minutes early, but Josh,
10 minutes. It's
so
okay.
much.
Hey, 10 minutes is better than none, bro.
Well done, right? That's right.
Hey,
Okay, so-
Josh, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I know both your audience and our audience really enjoy hearing your journey and seeing the benefits and you reaping the rewards of all your hard work are very rewarding. And I know, I saw somewhere in this comment about this dude whose professor, something Morrison, whose professors are making him, really concerned about the future and scaring him. It's like, hopefully, dude, this is why this podcast is here, is to take away some of that fear and control that they use over you, and give you hope to be able to grow your own food and grow your own animals and connect to the dirt again. It doesn't have to be large scale, man. It can be tiny. It could be a terrarium, a fish tank. It's all in the right
There's
direction.
no greater feeling and no more power that a person can have than being able to grow their own food.
Amen. Amen.
I can tell you
And
that.
with dealing with your professors, learn what they're teaching so you can pass the chorus, but understand in your own heart the truth of the matter, and then you can get through that part of it where you can pass their test because you're following their guidelines. But then when you get out of school, you can actually have the degree and then have the truth in you from watching podcasts like this.
And Ken, as always, thank you, brother, for all the hard work you do behind the scenes every week to make this happen. It wouldn't happen without you, bro.
That's right.
Thank you.
You've been around a while, Ken. I've been watching you for years. You're an old man. I know.
Oh, yeah, it's great, man. It's great. But we got Travis, and Leighton was just mentioning him. He's on for next week's guest. We've got the next, several weeks is all about the horizontal system. After Travis, we have Tom Landry coming on, and then we're going to have a panel with Josh, Travis, Tom, and Leighton coming on as a round table panel on the horizontal soil system. So, guys, there's lots more coming up, and we all appreciate you guys being here. Anybody that was on Josh's channel,
Thank you very much.
The chat was lively. Thank you for coming. If you want, switch over to It's All About the Biology channel. Give us a like and a subscribe, and follow along more of what's going on our channel as well. There's lots to learn. But guys, peace out. We love you all, and we will see you on Wednesday with me and Andy Lopez.
And by the way, I have a very special guest coming on soon. We haven't quite closed the date, but he's a dear old friend of mine and a huge cannabis star.
Cool.
So get ready.
Awesome.
And he hasn't even told me yet, so you guys are hearing this before I do.
I'm curious, man. I gotta know.
I'm sure you're gonna blow up my phone, Ken. You don't know much.
Okay, everybody, take care. Happy New Year.